and welcome to Live from Stubbs. We are here live from South by Southwest, Ustreaming. We are also live in the Gemalto Lounge, and we are lucky enough to be joined today by a couple of big brains. I'll introduce them in a second. I have my co-host and colleague, Greg Matthews, WCG. I'm Aaron Stroud, WCG. And so we'll start with a guy that's got a very cool title. I'm envious. I've got title envy here. Michael Bruemmer. I'm going to look just to make sure I get it right here. VP of Data Breach Resolution at Experian.
That's right.
A big, well-known sort of company that's been around for a while, not a .com by the least stretch. And then we have Joe Ross, who's president and co-founder of CSID. CS Identity is the long form of the title. We're also lucky because you guys are both located here in Austin. So when we shift gears to the second part of the show, we're going to be able to talk a little bit about some local music and some local barbecue, right? Do you want to tee up the first question?
Absolutely.
Sure.
So we had a chance to talk a little bit beforehand, and I wonder if you could talk to the audience a little bit about one of the great things about data breach resolution is that it tells you pretty closely what it is that you do. What is it that Experian actually does in terms of resolving data breaches?
So when a company has a data breach, we get involved from incident management as soon as a data breach occurs, notifying the state, discussing with the company if they want to offer some sort of resolution for consumers that are impacted by it, printing the notices, and then full restoration if identity theft should occur during that. So from soup to nuts, we'll handle everything.
Okay, and I think there's a connection between CSID and the data breach resolution team at Experian. Can you talk about that connection, Joe?
Exactly. So we have a buy-sell relationship. We purchase credit bureau information from Experian, and we in turn sell Experian technology and services. A good example is we have a technology called Cyber Agent, which literally operates on what we call the dark side of the internet. It's a side of the internet you and I couldn't access if we wanted to, but we route through servers over in Eastern Europe and Africa. And it's where identity thieves actually buy and sell information. And what our technology does, it's a series of artificial intelligence, what we call bots, and they sit on that site and they grab the information it is being bought and sold. So if a display of socials, credit cards, bank accounts are on these sites, we grab that information down, pull it, store it, and then we can develop a consumer monitoring product from that. So we can alert you if your information has been compromised, and we sell services like that to Mike's team at Experian.
So talk a little bit about some of the changes you're seeing. That one obviously is kind of cool, right? Like you've got a cool title, that's a cool product, and it sounds very mischievous and dark and agent, spy-like. What are some of the changes that you're starting to see evolving in the digital security space? And obviously you guys are two of the folks at the forefront. Maybe we'll start with you. Mike, sorry.
The big thing, I think, is that everybody's information is already out there. And so the idea of really being breached is only if a company takes that information and exposes it further. What we've seen most recently in the industry is that instead of just going after credit cards or social security numbers or driver's license, these hackers are going after usernames and passwords and starting to concoct a synthetic identity where they may take your username and address, they may take Joe's social security number and somebody else's driver's license, all valid, but creating an identity that can't be normally tracked. And that's kind of the new forefront in identity theft.
So essentially, why steal the egg when you can reconstruct the goose that lays the egg, right? And
exactly.
Let it keep laying eggs.
Wow.
Joe, how about yourself?
That was pretty good.
I got to keep up with you guys, man. Come on.
The one thing we're seeing that the hacks are becoming more organized. Obviously, everybody's heard about Anonymous with Sony and the Stratford breaches recently. But what you see is it's hard for technologies on the private sector to keep up. For instance, if we come up with a great technology, we patent it and we keep it a secret because we want to make money off of it. In their world, in the hacker world, when they come up with something, they share it. So what you have is thousands of people on these networks sharing bits of technology. And it's so hard to keep them out when you've got one firewall or multiple layers of firewalls out there and the hackers are sharing information. Hey, I made it past this one. Here's how you do it. And it's similar like Angry Birds. You play Angry Birds just to get to the next level. And if you get stuck, you can go to a forum, a blog, and figure out, hey, here's what you're supposed to do. All the video games are like that. What we're seeing is that's what's happening in the hacker community now is they share all the information because to them, it's just getting to the next level. And if they get stuck, They can do it posting, blog, find the information out how to do it, and then they go back and penetrate to the next one.
I want to ask a quick follow-up because I know normally we try to bounce back and forth here. So do you go out and hire those people? Like, are those the people that you need to bring into your team? Because they're the ones, obviously, that are thinking ahead of
Yes,
everybody
we
else.
have some, those are called black hats. We have what we call white hats, which are folks that understand that world and know how to operate in it and know how to kind of move around in there, because that's part of the deal is you have to penetrate and become part of the group. And once you're in there and you develop an alias or persona, then you can operate within the rooms, and it's really just technology that's operating. But that technology pulls all that information down.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if I'm a company, how do I typically find out about my breach? Is it that one of you guys would tell me, or do I find out some other way? Do I find out because Anonymous, posts it somewhere?
Like Joe said, sometimes we're actually telling the company through either the internet chat room or another service, say, hey, we found your data out there, you've got a problem. And the average time to detecting a breach, unfortunately, is almost 5 months. So generally, you've been inside the firewall, you've been grabbing information, you've been holding on to it for a while before it's discovered. And many times what we'll end up doing is going back and working with forensics people to track back, because you have to stop it once you find it. And then you worry about fixing it on the consumer side. But unfortunately, companies, even though with the best technology out there, about 70% of the breaches today are because of negligent employees inside.
Interesting. And so as the sort of the follow-on to that, once companies know, as you said, the first thing to do is to stop, just find a source and stop the breach. But what happens then? What are their options?
Well, communication is key. You want to have a plan, because a breach is a disaster. So it's similar to any disaster recovery. If something happens, you have to have a plan in place and a proper communication message. First thing is stop the leak, and then communicate, find out what was the extent of the leak, how much information was compromised, and then notify those impacted individuals so that they can take the necessary steps to protect their identity. And then what that also includes is, right now, unfortunately, there's so much with class action lawsuits centered around breaches. Lawyers have figured out that, hey, there is a new revenue stream there. It's just similar to the tort law back in the days. And class actions follow closely behind any breach. That's why you see consumer monitoring services that follow up. So you have the breach, you stop the breach, you figure out a communication plan, then you usually, or you should offer those impacted individuals some type of monitoring service, such as what Mike does. And that's the key, is because then you can mitigate the risk that follows, because you will have bad PR, you will have bad press,
Right.
and you will have legal action taken against you.
So you made a good segue with your pocket there in
I've never
terms
done
of.
I'm glad it was you versus.
Usually not the hosts whose phones go off. But anyway, I did want to ask a question about mobile, speaking of the phone go off. Has this proliferation of mobile, we have so many devices. I was seeing a statistic the other day that 87% of the world's population actually has access to a mobile device, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. Does that exacerbate the situation? Does it make it harder for you guys to do your job with all of this moving around so quickly, and really not relying on people having to have like their own computers, but the computers that sit inside these phones these days are fairly powerful, right? And you can be a little more anonymous too, because you can move around. So
I would say if there's one bright spot within technology for data breach, and this is not from my standpoint, but the Symantec's of the world and the McAfee's of the world are saying that the new technology in mobile right now is keeping breaches at bay. There are more issues with other technologies, larger computing, the server side of it, the firewalls and that, than there are with mobile devices. Not to say because of just the proliferation of the number of devices, it's still a problem, but it actually is better than some of the other technology.
interesting. Joe, anything to add to that? Or?
Well, I think mobile, as we start to expand into looking for global solutions, mobile is going to be a key, because as you mentioned, a lot of folks have phones, but they don't have computers. Traditionally, most identity theft monitoring products generate an email to you, and then you log into a secure site to access that data, because you don't want to send a credit report or, hey, we found your credit card number, or via an email, because it's not a secure channel. So what we're seeing is, with the proliferation of mobile devices, is we're moving toward developing technology where we can deliver alerts and other information via your phone. We're doing that currently with voice biometrics. And basically, you'd enroll in a product, and you roll in it using your voice, and then your placed a call is placed out to you, and we authenticate you, and then we can read you the information. So as we expand into global solutions, that's what we're going to be centered around.
Great. Well, this is the portion of the show where we go from the serious business, like really cool stuff. I'm learning a bunch of stuff right now myself, to the less serious side. So the barbecue, the music. Our namesake Stubbs obviously delivers a lot of both. We are in Austin. We're here during South by Southwest. Lots of that going around. Now, I think you said you're actually going to see some shows while you're here in town. So maybe for the folks listening to this live, I apologize for the folks seeing it recorded after the fact. Talk about some of the bands they should be checking out.
I was at UShip had a party Saturday night, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. was there. And never heard of these guys. Well, I'd heard of them. They played at ACL, but never really actually heard them live. They were awesome. I was lucky enough to see them at an Austin Venture show the next day, but love these guys. And no relation whatsoever, but great name. And then tonight, the Belmont just reopened, and Ghostland's going to be playing there tonight, so I'll probably head over tonight and check out Ghostland Observatory.
So epic venue in Belmont. If you haven't been there, beautiful night here. Again, sorry
Great
for the
night.
folks that will see this after the fact, but it's got a lot of open outdoor space and kind of like a big stage. It's easy to see from every
Yeah,
place, so.
excellent. It's true, and they're working with Do 512, which is a local kind of, and that's a great place if you want to find out information.
We had them on our live from Stubbs. They were actually one of our
They're great
guests.
folks,
Yep.
and so they've teamed up with them and Deep Eddy, and they're promoting and doing events all
Also
on
one of
there.
our guests. So look at this.
That's great.
We are in real life cross-linking shows
That's
here. I love
great.
it. And we
So-
didn't even plant that.
Yeah.
You had an interesting story because I think your son is coming down from Colorado. His band is playing on Friday.
Playing Friday night. It's Speed Wolf. They're from Denver. They're thrash metal. They play at Betsy's on Friday night, and then at Lovejoy's on Saturday during the day.
So does Dad listen to his son's thrash metal?
I actually love listening to him. I'm not a thrash metal fan, but you gotta.
You really look
I was
like
going to
one,
say,
Mike.
Yeah,
he did look
that's
like it, but yeah. Hipper than he looks, right?
Yeah.
I think we got to talk some barbecue here,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And actually, it's getting to be about dinner time, so it's a good time to talk about barbecue. We know what a big center for barbecue this place is. I'm wondering, Mike, you've been here long enough that you've probably developed some favorites, some tastes. Can you tell us about what you like?
Well, I like Stubbs, and I really like Rudy's.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we haven't had a lot of Rudy's, and I actually like Rudy's both for the breakfast tacos as well as, they're easy to access, but is there anything in particular that you like, some of the sides or the meat? Or
I like they have the hot links and then the chopped breakfast tacos.
The chop is definitely unique, right? And it's got like this kind of spiciness and a little bit of sweetness to it, and yeah, it's yummy. Joe, how about yourself?
Well, obviously Stubbs for the food and the music. I love concerts there. Saw Big Head Todd there like a week and a half ago. It's one of the best venues in town. But there's a new place, Franklin's, kind of right down.
We had our company dinner there the other night. So
Yeah.
we're like totally sympathetic out here. And I think you know the owners of Stubbs as well,
Yeah,
right?
some great guys over there. They're awesome, been around in Austin forever, and have really made that kind of a music icon around here. And then another place is Salt Lake. If you're ready for a little bit of a road trip, it's about a 30-minute drive, but it's worth it. It's BYOB and family style, and it's like a food coma waiting to happen.
Yeah, it is a fun place.
So I'm from Chicago originally, and I admit it, I love Texas barbecue, but I do have an affinity for those pork ribs that you get in Chicago with that sweet barbecue sauce.
Carson's?
Yeah, Carson's fantastic. Twin Anchors.
Yeah, Twin Anchors.
Yeah. So that's right. You are a Chicago guy. You know all about it.
Yeah.
So how do you evaluate sort of region to another? Even if you're from Austin, you've been around.
I think here it's more brisket. You get some ribs or sausage, and those are our kind of three. And a lot of people judge it by the brisket. Everybody loves good brisket. And and then the sauce too. Obviously, Salt Lake's known. They've got a nice kind of mustard-based sauce, and so I guess it's all dependent on your personal taste.
Yep, well, that's a good problem to have, right? First world problems, I think they call
Yeah.
it. So with that, we're going to wrap up our show. We want to thank you guys for being here, and a lot of good chit chat about both really serious stuff as well as some less serious stuff. So we are here at the Gemalto Lounge. We are broadcasting live in South by Southwest. And we're lucky enough to have Joe Ross, who's the president and founder of CSID, as well as Mike Bruemmer, who's the VP, and I'm going to just double check again, data breach resolution, so I don't get that wrong. I'm Aaron Strout of WCG, Greg Matthews, WCG. We appreciate you all listening in. Thanks.